Greenland is melting. But that's not the emergency. The real emergency is that while most people are focused on climate headlines, governments, corporations, and military planners are quietly making decisions that will shape global power for decades. Because Greenland isn't just losing ice, it's losing protection. For centuries, ice made Greenland untouchable. Not worth fighting over, not worth competing for, not worth investing in. Ice made trade impractical, extraction irrational, and permanent presence unnecessary. Nature enforced isolation better than any border or army ever could. That isolation wasn't accidental, it was structural. And now that structure is weakening, slowly, quietly, without urgency. That is exactly why this moment matters. By the time Greenland becomes a headline, the outcome will already be locked in. This is not a story about what might happen in the future, it is about what has already started. Greenland has been known to the world for more than 1,000 years. The Vikings reached it around the year 985. They called it Greenland not as irony, but as persuasion, an attempt to sell a harsh, remote land as opportunity. Those settlements failed, not because Greenland lacked value, but because access was unforgiving. For centuries after, Greenland remained strategically irrelevant, not ignored, simply unreachable. Ice was a wall. That wall shaped decisions more effectively than diplomacy ever could. That began to change in the 20th century. During World War II, Greenland briefly returned to the strategic map. When Denmark was occupied by Nazi Germany in 1940, the United States moved to secure Greenland, not for its population, not for its culture, not even for its resources, but for its position. Weather stations in Greenland became critical for predicting conditions over Europe. Airfields built on the ice allowed aircraft to move between North America and Europe. This was one of the first moments when Greenland mattered not for what it contained, but for where it sat. After the war, that interest never fully disappeared. In 1946, the United States offered Denmark the equivalent of $100 million to buy Greenland outright. Denmark refused. Countries do not attempt to purchase land they consider irrelevant. During the Cold War, Greenland hosted American radar stations and military bases, including Thule Air Base, which became part of the early warning system against Soviet nuclear missiles. Once again, geography mattered more than politics. Then the Cold War ended, and Greenland faded from attention, until ice began to retreat. Satellite data from NASA shows that Greenland has lost more than 250 billion tons of ice per year over the past 2 decades. In some years, the loss exceeded 500 billion tons. This is not only environmental change, it is strategic change. As Arctic ice retreats, routes emerge. Shipping routes that shorten global trade by thousands of kilometers, routes that bypass traditional choke points, routes that reduce dependency on canals and narrow passages. The Northern Sea route can reduce travel between Asia and Europe by up to 40%. When time shortens, power shifts. Trade is not about goods, it is about leverage. Who controls the route controls the flow. Who controls the flow influences prices, supply chains, insurance costs, and political pressure. This is why Greenland matters now. Not because it is melting, but because it is opening. Beneath the ice lie rare earth elements, critical minerals, oil, and gas. Materials essential for modern economies. Rare earths are used in electronics, renewable energy systems, electric vehicles, satellite technology, and advanced military hardware. Despite their importance, the global supply chain for these materials is fragile. Today, China controls a significant share of rare earth extraction and processing. That control is not theoretical. It translates directly into leverage over industries and governments that depend on those materials. Diversifying supply is not optional. It is a strategic necessity. Greenland offers one of the few viable alternatives outside China. That fact has drawn attention. During the 2010s, Chinese companies expressed interest in Greenlandic mining projects. This triggered concern in Washington, not because of the mines themselves, but because infrastructure follows investment. Ports, airfields, logistics hubs, communications networks. Influence rarely arrives wearing a uniform. It arrives as capital. In 2019, the United States openly objected to Chinese involvement in Greenland's airport construction projects. Shortly after, the United States increased diplomatic and financial engagement with Greenland. The language was polite. The message was clear. In 2009, Greenland gained expanded self-governance from Denmark, taking control over most domestic affairs and natural resources. This autonomy creates opportunity and pressure at the same time. Greenland seeks economic independence. Mining and infrastructure could provide it. But choosing investment partners means choosing alignment. And alignment creates consequences. Greenland does not want to become a pawn. But history shows that regions with strategic positions rarely remain neutral for long. What makes this moment dangerous is not conflict, it is inevitability. Access creates interest. Interest creates presence. Presence creates influence. And influence rarely retreats once established. There is no crisis summit on Greenland, no breaking news banner, no emergency debate. Because slow change does not trigger panic, it triggers planning. History is full of moments where nothing seemed to happen, until everything had already changed. The Suez Canal did not reshape global trade overnight. Neither did the Panama Canal. Routes matter more than events. Infrastructure matters more than speeches. Greenland is not a canal, but it is becoming a junction, a place where routes, resources, military planning, and economic interests intersect. By the time Greenland dominates headlines, decisions will already be behind us. Bases will exist or not exist. Routes will be normalized or excluded. Supply chains will be established, and the outcome will be treated as natural, even though it was not. Greenland is not melting quietly. It is being redefined quietly. Nothing dramatic is happening. That is exactly how power moves.